live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside of me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Blake. I already see that we've got one question from a listener, and I wanted to bring this up at the beginning of today's show.
It's not my nephew on my mom's account saying, hi, I'm Oliver.
I was wondering what that was, if that was a real person or not.
Yeah.
Hello, Oliver. Thank you for tuning in. I've heard you're a big fan. I was gonna say that
sitting there with Bama gear on. Bama Blake is back. Just throwing this out there, but continue.
I saw Citizens comment about how we're not getting to the LSU game this week. There's a bunch of games that we're not going to have time for this week, like the Utah-Arizona State game. The USF versus North Texas game is quietly a really good one on Friday. Packed week, Blake, but there are a couple of games that were just kind of couldn't really fit into the mix because of everything that's going on.
So Citizen does come over to AYS sometimes. And Joe, I got to be honest with you. I got some hate mail. I say hate mail, but I got some mail today. People saying, oh, Blake just doesn't want to talk about LSU because he thinks they're going to lose. And I'm like, well, hold on. Just so everybody knows like how this shit works. Joe basically runs everything and tells me what to do. So
sure.
I mean, from a topic standpoint, you're like, hey, let's do this. And I never push back unless it's like, well, hey, I think this might work. And then we just collaborate. Right. But I don't come up with a topic. So everybody coming down on me, I would talk LSU every week, clearly.
I was debating between the two. Those were the final two games that I was deciding between last night when I was picking them. And the simple reason was the fact that Georgia's slightly higher ranked than LSU. And I wanted to save you the stress of me picking LSU and jinxing LSU. And then I can save that for a different week.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be real with you. If we don't talk about LSU on this show, unless they make the playoff again, I'll be okay.
Okay.
You can't keep jinxing them. You can't keep jinxing them. But Elks is already mad. He says, in before Ohio State is the third for Joe and Blake, shaking my head.
Spoiler, it might be.
I mean, what do you – I mean, it's so crazy to me that well, here we go again. Now Ohio State fans are going to be mad at us even though we have them top three.
I don't think it's egregious to have Ohio State at 3 when all three of the top 3 teams are all even with one another. And here's the real reality, Blake, is that Ohio State can run through the rest of their schedule. Miami has gotten through all their tough games. Oregon is the one where there could be a little bit of a shakeup depending on how they handle some of the remaining games on their schedule. But we may not really for sure know who the best Big Ten team is until the Big Ten championship game.
Very well could be the case. I mean, if we're being honest, we're in week 7, and Big Ten people are going to hate me for this, but hey, Joel Klatt's out there talking massive shits about the SEC. So hold on just for a second. You're going to get your second and third ranked win of current opponents this week, and you're in week 7. Of current teams that are ranked, you will by happenstance, because Illinois is ranked, so if Ohio State beats them, okay, well, that will be their second of current ranked opponents. And then Oregon, and Indiana. One of those teams have to win. So, I mean, the only other team that has a win over a ranked opponent that's currently ranked is Indiana.
But where does the SEC stand in that same?
They have 12.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Right. But you said this earlier in the part of the week, if you remember. Look, there were like 3 weeks there where we kind of didn't really talk about the Big Ten. Unless it was Oregon, we really didn't talk about them. You want to know why? Do you want me to tell you why? Because there weren't really massive matchups there. Like you were mad that we didn't talk Ohio State, Washington. But, I mean, it comes down to a fact that you're starting to get to your bigger games now, and we've been talking about all of them. But the truth is the truth.
Well, and I've never disagreed that the SEC has been more aggressive about scheduling non-conference games, which they have proven to be the case. But at the same time, I think that stat that you're giving isn't super reliable for projecting difficulty of schedule because for what you just said, the Big Ten does not open their schedule typically with hard games. They don't.
No, but okay, like you could have learned a little bit more about Penn State before week 6. Okay, as that example. But I say that to say this, of a team not in the SEC, how do you not have Miami at 1? Third in the country in strength of schedule. So,
right.
Again, like when you talk about this, when you beat ranked opponents, your power ranking's going to go up.
Yeah, it's a fair way of
I just don't know how else to say it. Lions with a $5 super chat says, is there seriously a market for James Franklin in the SEC, or is it just trolling? Joe, I got to be real with you. I don't think that there's a market for him in the SEC after last week. Not right now. He would have to win the Big Ten. There's not a market for him in the SEC. North Carolina, maybe.
I think that, okay, so to be clear here, pitching that is not a circumstance of like I've got either of us have sourcing on it. It's just merely a projection of guessing how a lot of these teams operate. I have just merely brought this up is because I wouldn't be shocked if we don't find out when the carousel starts to pick up steam that there aren't phone calls being made, because some athletic departments are stupid. That's something that I should have been more clear about. Some athletic departments are really stupid and talk themselves into things that don't make sense.
You mean like Bill Belichick. Joe, there's some news coming out of North Carolina today that apparently Bill Belichick might not even make it halfway through the season, as there's already conversations of a buyout for Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Number one, are you even remotely shocked? No, because we talked about that in the preseason of either this one's going to go really good or really bad. There was no real in-between here. But it looks as if the talks, and even Bill Belichick giving $1 million for own buyout per sourcing, and I forget the gentleman's name who reported this.
Ollie Connolly from Read Optional.
Okay, Ollie reported this. So, Joe, what do you make of this? I look, I don't know the gentleman, so I don't know how true it is, but Pete Nakos is also saying, along with Inside Tar Heels, it's kind of a lot of the same stuff that's being out there right now. What do you make of this Bill Belichick news that he might not even make it halfway through the season here?
Well, I think that the craziest part about this is that possibility of him being so out on coaching at North Carolina that he'd be willing to spend his own money to create the divorce, because we talk buyouts all the time, and maybe my understanding of these coaching contracts is naive, and I'm missing something here. I don't know what his buyout is, but I think it would be more financially responsible if I was Belichick to keep coaching a shit team until I get my buyout and I get fired. This is like when you say, don't quit if you get put on a PIP at work. You instead wait until they fire you, because in most cases you get severance. If you quit, you completely remove that possibility. This is the coaching example of that, where he could decide to buy himself out of this and completely miss out on getting paid to not coach. If he is this miserable and he's failing this bad, that is really telling that this news broke. One thing I will say, though, Belichick is the pettiest man, one of the pettiest men in all of football. And if this report comes out and he reads it, I'd be willing to bet that he is considering sticking around longer, because that's something that he would freaking do. That's all I'm saying. Because he's done this shit before.
He has, and I here's the truth. With all due respect to the legacy of Bill Belichick, he's made that program an outright circus. There was a tweet that I saw today from an Inside Tar Heels or whatever, and forgive me for if I'm saying who it is, but Getty Images is a massive company that gets pictures, and we all use them for edits and things like that, whatever. Joe, 59 of the 112 pictures that were taken in last week's game with North Carolina was to Jordan, his girlfriend. He's made this a circus. Like, he's made this an outright circus in the sense of she's on the sidelines giving him kisses, long-formed kisses before a football game. And it's not like that she's standing behind a rope and he goes and greets her and says, hey, love you, She says, have a good game. It's not that. She's walking the sidelines. I got to be real with you. This is tarnishing his legacy by those simple actions to me. Like, listen, man, I get it. She's 40 years younger than you. You had already won multiple Super Bowls by the time that she wasn't even born yet. I get it. Everybody gets it. Actually, you might be 50 years older than her. But, Joe, I just got to call it like I see it. They allowed him to run this circus, and you're paying the price for it. North Carolina has got to start being serious about football because basketball is not going to pay the bills like that. And all of these teams that are so basketball focused, Kentucky, Arkansas at the current moment, North Carolina, Duke, maybe they pay the bills that you want. And maybe that's where you get a lot of your revenue. It's not where your TV revenue is coming from, brother. It's not where it's coming from. So you're in an era right now where TV revenue and the share of TV revenue that you give players is king. I mean, Joe, we're seeing kids around the country shut down recruitments. You want to know why? For the first time ever, they're shutting down recruitments in October because they're signing contracts, brother. It's over. So I say all that to say, to me, from the outside looking in, it has appeared to be an outright complete circus from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think you put it very strongly there. Shout out to Keegan Renault, who tweeted this. I thought this was a really good point. He brought up the fact that last year, if they handled this hire differently and they hired a coach, which they were exploring options. I believe Summerall was in the mix, who's the Tulane head coach. Matt Campbell, who's at Iowa State, was one of the coaches that they were considering. They would have been able to go and hire an up-and-comer, one of these guys that's transformed the G5 program to take this team to another level. But instead, they allowed for this whole, and there's been a lot of reporting on, and I believe there's even some sort of a lawsuit related with the hiring process where it wasn't allowed to be like a real coherent decision. And Keegan pointed out in one of his tweets I saw earlier today that last year they would have been at the top, or if not were at the top of the available jobs. It was a rare year where there were not many big jobs open because you had Billy Napier. Billy Napier stuck around. Well, North Carolina was literally the biggest job. What was the other big job that was even open? That was primary. We didn't cover. There were no other SEC jobs that came open. There weren't many Big Ten jobs. The North Carolina job was the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with all the resources that they had, they're going to be at the bottom of the list because there's now a chance for Arkansas, Florida. Who knows what happens with James Franklin? Auburn could be open. Virginia Tech is not far off from North Carolina in terms of the money that they just announced they're committing. UCLA is also a big brand. There's a lot of competition now.
Stanford. I mean,
they just announced a commitment financially to.
I mean, and by the way, Andrew Luck, I mean, did you see his announcement after the donation? Hey, we're giving majority of this TV revenue to football.
Blake, they missed the boat. And now if he decides to leave, I'd almost would make him stick around longer. But if he decides to leave, they're going to have to choose from the scraps. You know, they're going to have everybody else is going to get hired away. Summerall might take one of those big jobs.
Well, let me ask you this. Why in the world would I go to North Carolina? By the way, I love North Carolina. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. Beautiful state. Why in the world would I go to a place where TV revenue is king and you're giving me some of the less parts in the ACC? Why would I remotely do that? Now, I'm going to tell you this. You know, John Summerall's name was brought up. You want to know why it got turned down? I don't think it takes a lot of guessing to understand that they told him that he wasn't going to get the money like that. And he just said, hey, brother, I have the same amount of money floating around here around Tulane. Gail Benson, the Saints owner, is giving me more money than you are right now. Joe, I don't think it's a good job. Not for football.
It could be. It's a shame.
Yes, you're right. It could be, but it's not. And you want to know why you had to go to Bill Belichick? Because everybody knows it. And teams like Kentucky with Mark Stoops that might open. Joe, these basketball primary schools for football are not – you've already made your budget for the year. Are they going to take money away from basketball at any one of those schools to give it to football?
No.
Okay, well –
and they've kind of made that clear too.
Well, then you've made your bed. And you're going to have to lie in it. We'll see. Coaches are psychopaths. There's no telling what one of them will do. All right, so let me ask you this: at what point? I mean, so he's going to probably move on. I mean, if it's not this, I mean, on field is not great either. So I mean, this job's coming open at some point. But they got to. Joe, I just got to be. I don't care until you want to show me that you're serious. Why would I take you seriously? And here's the bad thing. You fired a really good man in the process in Mac Brown.
Well, Mac was had reached his ceiling, and it just was ironic that they hired somebody who was equally as old and expected different results. If you were going to fire a guy who you thought was too old to be successful with your program, why would you go and hire Bill Belichick? It didn't make any sense. They are going to need to go after someone young who wants to make a name for themselves, who has helped. Like, I would go grab one of those Texas coaches, the North Texas coach, Eric Morris. I would talk to GJ Kinney. I would go and see there's that whole cluster of coaches in the state of Texas where I don't know if it totally makes sense translation wise. I would take the Memphis head coach. His name is escaping me.
Silverfield.
Yes. I would call him. It's not that far of a different footprint recruiting wise. I would call him.
I got to be real with you. Remember what we talked about with the FedEx thing with Memphis? Joe, they got paid $25 million per semester for football.
Yeah, I don't know what that comparison is because we don't have those budgets in front of us. But
right. They're building a new stadium. They're renovating. I got to be real with you. I got to ask an honest question. Is Memphis might be a better job because of the money that's being poured into North Carolina right now?
Well, they also are a good basketball school too, but you
they're also pouring in the money. You saw the Arkansas game. FedEx is got their branding all over the place.
Maybe you have a point, but to separate from that, Golesh, Morris, Kinney, the UTSA coach's name is also escaping me. But there are a lot of great coaches right now in the American Conference that are in the same general.
Joel's going to have his pick, bro.
Yeah.
He ain't going to North Carolina. I'm sorry. My daughter and my niece are cousin, but Millie and Jewel want to shout out. So shout out to Jewel and shout out to Millie. Alex says you both love to question Ohio State or put them down any chance you get. You'll do it every year.
It's
always. Well, is Ohio State that good?
Alex, I love you. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this question. Who was my national title pick last year?
Who was our national title pick last year?
When they got into the playoff last year, who did we pick to win when we did our playoff prediction?
Even after the Michigan loss, we said that Ohio State had the best path that they could get. Alex, come on, man. We talk to you every day, dude. I know that you're kind of messing with us, and I respect you, and we talk every day in the Discord and stuff, but, dude, don't be one of those guys that tries to read into what we're saying. I can promise you the words that come out of our mouths are the words that we're saying. There's nothing to read into it. We don't hate Ohio State. I don't like Michigan. I hate Michigan more than I have anything to feel about Ohio State. So you're acting like I've got something that whatever. Thanks to the super chat, Alex.
Royce Pierce with a $20 super chat says, afternoon, guys. I hope all of you are doing great today. One day closer to some more great football. Everyone needs to be like Royce.
Positive vibes. Always positive vibes.
Always positive vibes from our good buddy Royce. Thank you so much, buddy. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get moving here. Everyone do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every Ruffino and Joe show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. You have the discretionary income. Go over to FanDuel.com today and join by downloading their mobile app, FD Sports Book. When you do that, you can go over there, place those bets. You want to get on some parlays. You want to get on college football. The Major League Baseball playoffs are here. As our Yankees, I say our Yankees, my Yankees, try to tie the series here tonight. You can go over to FanDuel.com and place those bets. Any thoughts, questions, concerns, go over to FanDuel.com/RG for more details today. All right, Joe, let's get into our power rankings here in Week 7 as we read them off. Who are your top 12 teams in college football right now?
All right, number 1, Miami. Number 2, Oregon. 3, Ohio State. 4, Alabama. 5, Georgia. 6, Texas Tech. 7, Texas A&M. 8, Indiana. 9, Tennessee. 10, Ole Miss. 11, Oklahoma. 12, Missouri.
My top 12 as it stands right now, it's not Oregon at 1 and number 2, but I have Oregon at number 1, Miami at number 2, Ohio State at number 3, Bama at 4, Texas A&M at 5, Georgia at 6, Ole Miss at 7, Oklahoma at 8, Indiana at 9, LSU at 10, Texas Tech at 11, and Georgia Tech at 12. Joe, where do you want to start off with?
Let's have the Miami discussion. We're not relitigating last week's conversation, but I simply just would like to, and this isn't me coming at you, I'm just merely emphasizing what I saw in the Florida State game is everything that I saw, which is why I have them at number 1. And I credit you for moving them up. And we can talk about Ohio State in a second.
A spot.
Yeah.
It's not like I hated them like everybody said in the chat last week.
Right. You moved them up a spot. We can talk about Ohio State in the context of this in a quick second here. And I think that what I brought up when Elks tagged me on Twitter, I think is completely fair, a fair assertion to have. But what Miami proved to me, Blake, and I have been preaching this, they are the most balanced team in college football. And the most balanced team in college football does not just mean that they've got a top 10 passing offense, passing defense, rushing defense in those 4 quadrants. It doesn't purely mean that in every single game, all of those areas excel. It means that they have talent at all of those positions. All of those positions are well coached enough. They have depth at all of those positions. And that when one struggles, the other can step up. And I have a resume. I've got a portfolio for Miami of different games where different things worked and they turned to a different solution. They couldn't do that last year. They couldn't. And that was what caught them up and why they finished the way that they did.
Mm-hmm.
What they have shown is an ability of when the run game isn't working, we're going to air you out. Tony's going to make big plays. He's going to separate. He's going to be a yak dude who's going to kill you. Or we're going to run down your throat. And then on defense, we're either going to swarm and smother you or we're just going to keep everything in front of us and we're going to grind you down. They do so many things well, Blake, and I stand by it. I'm very high on Oregon as well. And I'm also very, very high on Ohio State. But I just want to give my love for Miami. And then if you have any thoughts on moving them up.
Yeah, so my thoughts on moving them up a spot, even though I was labeled a Miami hater last week by all the Miami fans, which, again, was just not remotely true. I really do feel like sometimes Miami people don't listen. Mm-hmm. They just, you don't have us at 1, so we're going to get mad at you.
All right, don't call them out. Don't call them out.
You didn't see my mentions. Actually, you did see my mentions because I sent you a screenshot of them. But great teams, playoff teams, can beat you in multiple ways. They can beat you multiple ways whether what you're talking about being a complete team. Your run game did not get going. Well, it's not really all on you. They put 7. There one time, I think it was Herb Street that pointed out there was 8 guys in the box for Florida State. You couldn't run the ball. They did not want you to run the ball on them. Well, you threw it. There's a point last week that Carson Beck had more touchdowns than incompletions. He had 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 1 incompletion, and you were able to win the game. Do I think that they took the pedal off the metal at the end of the game there and Florida State came back? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the only thing would be that they didn't close it out. And I got to be real with you. If we're fighting over semantics, I'm not fighting with you on this one. If they would have closed it out and just slammed the door shut on Florida State, I would have been like, all right, this is the best team in the country. Like, there's no other real questions about that, but they didn't. So they are right there, and they are a much better overall team, as you mentioned, than last year. Do I think did they get a little bit too penalized? Yes. Could it come back to bite them in the future? Probably, but it's not right now, and I don't think that there's a team on their schedule that can do that to them right now. Joe, they just do everything very well. And when a team can do every single thing very well, that's when you start dominating teams. I think that they have gotten to a spot when you look at Miami and you look at them moving forward, is the U back? Now, you and I had the conversation last year, and I was always the one pushing back, like, hey, man, you keep giving up those explosive plays, somebody's going to clip you. I don't know where they really have a weakness. Maybe if someone can find a way to get to Carson Beck and get him on the ground. I mean, I'm
just
sure.
hard with that offense. So this is the biggest thing. Like I don't mean to cut you off already.
Go ahead.
They have the best offensive line and defensive line in college football.
That is as a collective unit, yes,
valuable.
Right. I mean, like you got Missouri at 12, and I debated putting them in there, but I mean, brother, I hate to say it like this. Missouri's running over everybody. Now they haven't. They haven't played the quality of teams that Miami has had, but you're right. I mean, they're the best on both sides of the football right now.
And look, Ohio State is, to what I just said, Ohio State is right. Like this is the thing that needs to be clear here. This is the degree of separation. It's like an inch. There is a difference in what makes Ohio State's defense overall better. And it's that they've got a madman orchestrating it that does a fantastic job of putting quarterbacks in a blender. I'm going to keep repeating this. Was one of my favorite coordinator hires of the offseason. I was one of the few people that seemingly was supporting the Matt Patricia hire. And it's already coming to fruition what I talked about, where he used to be one of the most disruptive defensive coordinators in the NFL. And now he has the ability to expose differences, huge differentials in talent, which he's doing at this level. To be very specific, though, I brought this up on Twitter. The only slight separation is that I think that the Miami offensive line is slightly better than Ohio State's, and I think that it's notable the depth that Miami has at running back, that when they lost Lyle, they still had Fletcher and Brown, and both those guys were productive. And once Lyle's fully back healthy, they're just going to get stronger. They're 42nd in EPA per rush. Ohio State is 62nd. There's a pretty big degree of separation. And in total yardage, there's also a degree of separation. I have faith that Ohio State's going to be fine in that area. But it's not even a weakness. I'm not even saying that, like, this is going to cost Ohio State. No. I'm just saying they're not running the ball as well as they should, and they eventually will. And if they start doing it better, maybe the ranking changes. That's it.
Yeah, and listen, for me, again, and I said this last week, that something else that got missed, I think the top three teams are shuffling in and out of here. A couple of weeks ago, we had Ohio State. Then 1 week we had Oregon. Then this week it's Miami. I mean, Joe, it's a shuffleboard at the top. And I got to be real with you. If you're mad over, like, hey, we're at 2 instead of 1, or we're at 3 instead of 1, who cares? Now, you don't agree with the power ranking resume part. But the reason that Miami's at 1 is because of what their resume has looked like, right? If Miami played nobodies, you wouldn't have them there. You would say, well, they haven't been tested. And to be honest with you, from what we know from what Ohio State's played so far, have they been tested?
I think that, and again, we don't talk resumes when we have this conversation, but I think that it's trying to frame it as like, how did they look against who they played, not who have they played and the quality of the wins and so forth.
Correct.
Yeah. I think Ohio State has looked incredibly dominant, except for that first game where their offense was a little slow to get going and they couldn't really run the ball for a very good clip, but that was week 1. So we give a lot of grace to the improvement. And as we've talked about here with a lot of these teams, there is room to improve. Teams are gradually going to get better over time. Mm-hmm. I just think, and Elks brought up here high on Ohio State, but they're number 3 behind Oregon. Penn State win for Oregon is awful. OSU defense is the single best unit. So why is OSU?
Hold on, pause. Okay, then your Texas loss is bad, or your Texas win is bad.
Right. That's they're Texas and Penn State are literally the same team right now. They're the same team. The difference is that you beat Texas at home and Oregon beat Penn State on the road. And I would argue Dante Moore in that performance looked better than Julian Sayin did against Texas. And I'm not trying to nitpick. I am not talking down on Julian Sayin, was his first damn start. I'm giving him credit. He looked great for what he had available to him. But I think we just got to be a little patient. Here's the biggest thing here. It's week 7. There's a lot of things that are still being figured out. To this point, I have more dominant victories over the stretch of these games for Oregon and for Miami and the way that they've looked in those games. And Ohio State is building a resume, and they're starting to look great as well. I don't have to. There's nothing wrong with having them at 3. It's the only thing I can say anymore at this point. Doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean that they won't win a national championship.
I know what he's gonna say. Well, the UCLA loss. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? Then that win that you're gonna have against Penn State is not good for you either. Newsflash really quickly to the Big Ten. Penn State being down is horrible for you.
That is true.
Because of the strength of schedule issue that you're going to run into here. Again, I'm not fighting with anybody anymore about where we have teams. I think if you're asking me right now, the most complete team that I trust the most, it's Oregon, and I can be proven wrong. I can easily be proven wrong, and we're going to figure it out.
If you don't want to fight with me, or if you don't want to fight with other people about where teams are, then I'm gladly going to fight with you specifically about where you have specific teams. Can we just have the conversation about why you are much further off on Texas Tech than I am? And I'm not trying to pin you as a villain here, like I did last week with Miami fans.
Even though I had him in the playoffs.
That's fair. What do you need to see more from this Texas Tech team in order to put them at least in the top 8? Because I think that they're at least a top 6 team in the country because of the way that they are playing right now.
Yeah.
If they were – okay, go ahead.
So you have them at 6. I don't think they beat – do you think they beat A&M right now today?
Do you have –
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I have 2 really solid defensive performances from A&M over the last couple of weeks. I have more consistency from Texas Tech. And I think that Texas Tech's roster is closer to A&M's than we give them credit for.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not their roster.
What do you mean?
Meaning you said Texas Tech's roster is closer to A&M than we think, which means it's not A&M's roster.
Yeah, it's not as strong.
Listen, I love Texas Tech. I had them in the playoff. I'm a massive Texas Tech fan. Love what they're doing. Think they're dangerous. I actually think they can win a playoff game. I think they can beat some of these teams that I have above them. I'm just not ready to put them there. I think Charlie Morton has
Aaron.
I mean, God, Charlie, not the baseball player. Morton has had some games and situations that I look at Marcel Reed in that offense. I look at Indiana. I look at some of these other teams that I have them above, and I'm like, a lot of teams have talent. A lot of teams have really good coaching. And I think that there does come a little bit that, oh, man, Texas Tech spent all that money. Look how great they are. And they are. They are going to – I think they're going to win the Big 12, and they're going to be a playoff team. But, Joe, there's also some things that I need to see. Can you slow down an attack like A&M's? Can you slow down? Can you slow down in Indiana? Can you slow down some of the – Joe, if they go up against Tennessee, as an example in this, I don't know if they're slowing Tennessee down.
A&M's offense got slowed down by Auburn. A&M's offense.
Auburn's a top 10 defense. So, you can say all of that. Oh, they got slowed down by this. It's not. They're going up against Auburn with that many level of dudes in a top 10 defense when you're going up against Houston, with all due respect.
Also, but we're not comparing schedules. This is the thing that we always start yelling at it. But no. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm not comparing schedules. I'm being very specific to what you just talked about. How I don't know if you can slow down Marcel Reed in this offense. There's 2 games where Marcel Reed has struggled over the last 2 games, and he's done some phenomenal things, but he's got turnovers and the offense.
We're specifically looking at A&M. I can easily point at Tennessee. Look what Tennessee did up front to Georgia's front seven, who, by the way, is a top 15 team in run defense. So, again, you're telling me that Tennessee can run on Georgia's front seven, but they can't run on Texas Tech's?
Okay, but here is what's bothering me about this conversation is that those teams are good. Those are good teams, and I'm not saying that Texas Tech is heads above them. I think that you are discounting the quality of Texas Tech's roster to this point because you've got Romello Height and you've got Romello Height and David Bailey coming off the edge. Two guys that many SEC rosters would kill to have on their team at this current moment. This is not a Big 12 team that is trotting out there a bunch of guys that would not stick on teams in other conferences or in the SEC.
I'm not saying that they are.
I know that you're not, but my argument here is that they are going to show when they get to the playoff that they're going to be able to go more toe-to-toe with these top teams in these top conferences than people realize. I'm just being early to this because they've shown dominance. They dominated Utah. They dominated Houston.
You know who else showed dominance against non-really good opponents?
Utah's not a bad opponent, though. Utah's in the mix at the top of the Big 12.
I think Dan Pierce is not good. Sorry. I don't think he's that great. He keeps turning the ball over. Joe, he's on pace for 22 turnovers.
What's Blake Shapen then? What's
Georgia?
Jelly?
What's Georgia?
They played well against Georgia.
It's all fine and dandy when you say what you say until they line up and you got to go up against Georgia in the first round and you say, hello. Let's just say Oregon or Ohio State don't win the Big Ten and it's a 6 versus 11 matchup and they're going up against them. Like I look at Tennessee and I say, okay, well, if it's Georgia or Tennessee, well, Tennessee was right there with Georgia, Joe.
That's all fine, but
hold on one second. Oh, that's yours. You're consisting with having Georgia and Texas Tech at 5-6 as being more comparable, and I'm not. I'm not there. You're putting them in the same breath as those teams.
I am. This is where you and I have. This is where you and I have consistently fought over this stuff. Is that this is not the 2018 SEC? It's not. There are depth issues, roster holes with these teams. You know what Georgia doesn't have at the current moment? A pass rush. Do you know what Georgia has at the current moment? Injuries along their offensive line. They're putting freshmen out there at the current moment. Tennessee's got their own inconsistencies and issues and got ran all over and allowed Gunnar Stockton to completely piece up that secondary. A&M got ran all over by Notre Dame.
Oregon, who's your number 2 team, had to go into double overtime with a team that just lost to UCLA.
Okay, now we're trying to do. No. We're not talking transitive properties here. And those aren't transitive properties, Blake. I'm trying to point out the weaknesses.
Came in here
there's a difference. There's a difference between what I just did and what you did. What I just said, Blake, was I pointed out very specific issues for those teams. You just pointed out that Oregon went to double overtime. You didn't identify a weakness, and you had to use 2 teams to explain that.
Joe, you literally led off the segment by saying A&M could barely score on Auburn, and you telling me that I'm doing transitive properties.
No, but that's not what I was doing. That's not a transitive property. I'm trying to identify they have shown offensive inconsistency. That was the argument. The argument wasn't that Auburn means they're bad. I also
have seen them go into South Bend, Indiana, and light that ass up.
That's a shit defense that they lit up. Congrats. This A&M team is good. I'm not discounting it. By the way, LSU should not be in your top 12. I'm going to be quite frank with you. Missouri is a better team than them.
Are you sure?
Yes. Can't move the ball, man. I'm not trying to take shots at LSU, but
you just said your secondary was ass. I don't care if you take shots at them.
Okay.
If you talk about shit to your own team, I'm not going to get mad when you take one at mine.
All right, that's fair. I don't mean to labor on this point because I know we still have to get to our preview today.
Here's the thing. Yeah. For me, you're right. Have they closed the gap on talent? Yes. But we're fighting over the piece of, I think that those teams in the Big Ten and SEC do have more depth. I do think they have more talent.
I disagree with that. I don't think that there is a depth because we're seeing these teams get held back by the fact that Jermichael McCoy is not on the field for Tennessee and their secondary is awful. We're seeing injury issues for the Georgia offensive line that are affecting them.
And Joe, be honest with you, I get what you're saying there. Those teams have actually played ranked opponents, like actually good teams that physically can dominate themselves. I'm not going to reward Texas Tech and get them above, I'm just going to say 8 at the current moment until you go against one of those opponents, and you're going to face one.
I don't know. I think
so think about this for just a second. You don't like using transitive property, okay? Here's be my last point. What happens if it's a close game between Texas Tech and Arizona State? Arizona State lost to Mississippi State. So
okay,
hold on. It's not a stretch when I got one of the worst teams in a conference beating a team who, by the way, right now is almost atop the Big 12.
Okay, but here's the problem with that statement, Blake. You're falling for the trap that a lot of people make fun of when they go up against SEC people. It's a hypothetical. The game still hasn't been played yet.
Joe,
I'm going off the information I have right now. Texas Tech has not played Arizona State yet.
Okay, how do you base what the top 12 is if you don't watch the games and who they're playing?
No. Stop. They haven't. Texas Tech has not played Arizona State yet. And that is a hypothetical.
You asked me a hypothetical with an offensive pulse. They haven't.
But what you just asked me has not come to fruition yet. So I can't answer your question because it doesn't relate to the rankings.
I asked you what if.
I'm not going to answer it because it hasn't happened yet.
Because you don't want to answer because you know what's going to be the truth.
I think that they're gonna cover and they're gonna beat them by 10 points. I think that they're gonna beat Arizona State by 10 points. I think they're gonna beat them handedly, confidently.
Okay, so you're right there with Mississippi State. That would.
How does that? Oh, those things. That game was at Mississippi State too, by the way. So that context needs to be brought in.
And aren't they playing at Texas Tech?
If they beat, that's. I can't argue with you over this for the next 20 minutes because we have to get to the Georgia Auburn preview and we still have to get to game picks.
I just got a text, by the way, saying keep pissing him off. Just throwing that out there.
Who texted you?
I'm not telling you. All right. Georgia versus Auburn. Big rivalry game in the SEC this weekend. Joe, when you look at Georgia and Auburn, I got one question for you before we even talk about the game. Is this a game for Hugh Freeze's job?
I think it is, man. I think it is. You're coming off of, by the way, Georgia 3.5-point favorite on FanDuel. You're coming off of a bye week. And you talked about having time to reset and having the opportunity to sit and figure out how to work on improving things. There is not going to be a week after this if they get their asses kicked. Now, Blake, the biggest thing that I'm paying attention to in this game, Georgia's pass rush has been incredibly criticized, up until this point. They have not done an effective job. Only 7 sacks this year, which is 13th in the SEC. They have 23 tackles for loss, which is 14th in the SEC. They're getting a matchup with not a bad Auburn offensive line, but one that is set up to fail because Jackson Arnold holds onto the ball too long. They have allowed 21 sacks, 30 tackles for loss so far this season. Like the number one most important thing is, does Georgia's pass rush start to build some confidence in this game? And do they start to get after Auburn? I am blown away by the fact that this line is this close. This is one of my locks of the week. I am absolutely taking Georgia to cover that 3.5-point spread.
To your point, Georgia's 108th in the country in sacks. They have 7. And here's the question that I have. I do think Hugh Freeze's job is up for grabs this week. It might not come to pass, and you might not see it on Twitter, and you might not see people saying sources. Hugh Freeze is going to be let go at the end of the year, has been let go at Auburn. But what I do think is, Joe, there's going to have to be something to pass here. And this could be the start of, all right, well, we knew that Hugh was out by the Georgia game after they lost. It makes this line very interesting to me because you're right about Georgia not being able to get home and get after the passer. Can they get after Jackson Arnold, who, by the way, you're right, holds on to the ball too long? But there's something that Georgia also has not been able to figure out either. So teams have been hitting deep passes on them all year, whether it be Bama, whether it be Tennessee, regardless of who it is. Cam Coleman still exists. Eric Singleton still exists. And what happens if Jackson Arnold actually does have time?
That's the opposite side of this conversation, which is really interesting is this the possibility of the created opportunities for Georgia's pass rush to tee off, which I lean in that being the reality that happens.
I do too.
Because if no one's open, because the secondary is playing solidly enough, that they're playing good enough in coverage, I think Arnold's going to still make the same mistakes that he's made so far.
I do too. And listen, offensively, they just don't have a pulse. They're 112th in the country in passing. They're 117th in the country in third down, which is dead last in the SEC, not named South Carolina. Maybe they can shock Georgia coming out to start the game, coming off of a bye week. Like maybe they show them some stuff that they haven't seen, kind of like what Tennessee did. Hey, we didn't really show anything. Tennessee comes out throwing haymakers and they land with Brazel and the boys. Maybe that happens. But I got to tell you, man, there's no way in blue hell that I am trusting Hugh Freeze in this offense to do anything. Blake, Georgia's struggling getting after the passer. Don't care. I simply do not care. Because here's what I do trust. I will trust Kirby Smart defensively more than I will ever trust Hugh Freeze right now and Jackson Arnold offensively. It's not close. Now, what would scare me if I'm a Georgia fan here is Cam Coleman. It, without a doubt, is Cam Coleman. Because, Joe, they have not been able, whether it be Bama and Tennessee that I've just mentioned, teams have gotten vertical on them, and they have been undisciplined in the secondary. I hate to say this about Georgia, but it's the truth. Georgia fans, a lot of you follow this show, and you know that we love you. But here, we got to rip a Band-Aid off here. And your secondary is playing highly undisciplined. Highly. You're not doing the things that you need to do to be elite, and you're not doing the things that you need to do to be great. You're getting out of position. You're being lackadaisical on some things. You're losing lack of focus. But I just can't for the life of me. And I know Cam Coleman could have a special day, and if Jackson Arnold's given time to throw, maybe he can hit some passes to Cam Coleman. But, Joe, I think that the thing that we're going to see this week, at least that I hope that we see this week, Auburn's defense is 38th in the country in total defense. Oh, it's not that bad. But their secondary has been attacked like no other. Georgia, you went out in the portal and got some receivers. Colby Young is pretty good. Zachariah Branch is pretty good. It's time to let Gunnar Stockton let that thing loose. Because I'm going to tell you, this Auburn defense, whether we want to make fun of them or not, we want to make fun of Auburn, we want to make fun of Hugh Freeze, Jackson Arnold, that's all fine and dandy. Joe, this Auburn defensive front seven is legit under DJ Durkin. They're really good. They're very good. Marcel Reed and Texas A&M literally was stubborn and tried to continue to run the football when you have weapons like Concepcion and Marvio Craver and Terry Bussey on the outside, and they kept trying to run the ball on them, and it backfired. You better open this thing wide open and let Gunnar Stockton go off, because that's where you're going to win this game.
Yeah, you're going up against this front led by Keldrick Falk that has been phenomenal. And one area that should be the approach, using those weapons, the speed that you now have available to you, and the improved wide receiver room, it's becoming a bigger and bigger asset every single week. The one area that I'm definitely intrigued by, though, which area breaks through. And I'm talking about how Auburn's run defense has been fantastic to this point. 88 rush yards per game, 2.56 yards per carry allowed. They're just not allowing anybody to get going. But they gave up 207 against A&M, and they gave up 8 runs of 10 yards or more. You've got Chauncey Bowens and Nate Frazier off to this tremendous start where this whole rushing attack has over 207 rush yards per game, 4.79 yards per carry, and the two of them are averaging over 5 yards per attempt. So that is like another facet to this, my last facet to this, that I want to see. How does the run game for Georgia step up with a real challenge, because that has been the biggest reason why their offense has hit so much balance.
Well, and two, Auburn is 16th in the country in tackles for loss. Look, I'm telling you, man, this Auburn front seven is legit. They are so bad in so many areas that we can point out. Do I think you can throw on them? Yes. Do I think that offensively they're anemic throwing the football? Yes. Do I think that Hugh Freeze's job is on the line? Yes. You better not run your head up against the wall like Texas A&M did, because that's what they did, and that game was a 6-point game.
Right.
And Auburn stood around, and they're not going to give up. DJ Durkin has got those dudes playing. Xavier Atkins, hello. Might be the one of the unkept secrets in the entire country, might be Debo Atkins. Joe, I can't trust anything that they do, though. I'm going to go Georgia here, and I'm going to go Georgia big. I think that Kirby is going to allow this to happen, and I don't trust Jackson Arnold at all. Give me the dogs big here.
I concur. Give them to me on FanDuel 3.5 to cover. One of my favorite bets this week.
What do they know that we don't?
Well, last time this game was at Auburn, it was close, and that's the only thing that I could guess.
I guess. I just can't. For the life of me, I can't see it. All right, Joe, before we get out of here, we got to get to our game picks presented by our good friends over at FanDuel. Go over to FanDuel.com today. Download their app. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, go over to FanDuel.com/RG for more details. If you want to go place the bets, you know where to do it. Joe, Oregon versus Indiana. Oregon, a 7.5-point favorite. I'm going with Oregon. You're going with Indiana.
By the way, we're tied right now in overall record. I'm taking Indiana because I think that they've got the offensive explosiveness to backdoor cover if things do get out of hand. But I also do think that this roster is incredibly underrated, and they're capable of going toe-to-toe. Overall, I think this game is going to be exhilarating. I like the little hook that's put in there that they could lose this game by 7.
And I hate it. I really do. If you're asking me, would I bet this game like point spread? No. I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But I think Oregon's going to roll here, man. I really, really, really do. Dan Lanning and Oregon coming off a bye week. Give me Oregon and I'm not going to say big. I know people were mad at me about that. I think they can get to 10 plus.
I'm not going to do it.
Actually, Oregon big. Let's roll with it. Oregon big here. Texas A&M minus 7.5 versus Florida. Boy, we got a lot of different thoughts this week. I'm going with A&M. You're going with Florida. I got to admit here, this is the one I don't like the hook on.
Yeah, here's my thing. As much as I have pause on if Florida can keep this thing scrappy and close. I think this game being at Kyle Field, I think that knowing how good this defense is currently playing for A&M in the pass rush they could generate on DJ Lagway, I think that is going to be what creates the separation. I hate that the spread's so big, but I think that if someone wins confidently, it's going to be Texas A&M this week.
Can Florida do it again? Joe, I'm going. My bet is not against Florida. It's not against their defense. It's not against Lagway or their run game. I don't trust Billy Napier to stay with what works. I can't get there. I mentally I can't do that. Do I think Florida's a really good team? Yes. Joe, there's a thought in my brain, even though I picked them 7.5. I could see Florida winning this. Really, I could. Like it would be the least shocking thing to me in the world if they're able to go in there and win. I just don't trust Billy Napier, man, at all. I got to go with the Aggies here. All right. Joe, USC minus 2.5 over Michigan. Damn, are we picking dude?
No, not all. Just one of them were on the same.
Golly, I'm going with Michigan. You're going with USC.
Yeah, I'm taking SC as we talked about here. I think that the home environment is going to be huge for them, and I just don't trust the weapons that Michigan brings to the table. I think that there's going to be a lot of big plays for USC. If they can build a 10-point cushion, they're going to be able to hang on to it because Michigan's not the type of team to be able to play catch-up.
How old were you in 2008?
10.
There was this song when you were 10 called Let Me Hit That Shoulder Lean when I was graduating. And this Michigan offensive line and run game is going to lean all over USC. Michigan, give me the points. They're going down. They're going down.
I'm going to take such a big lead on you this week. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Huh?
This is
we'll see. We'll see. Are you sure?
This is a good example. Yeah, this one I feel confident in. I feel very confident in you.
Okay. We shall see. Bama -3.5 versus Missouri. Both of us going with the tie. Watch us both win this one and then split the others.
I know, right? That's probably going to happen. I just think that the secondary issues that we talked about for Missouri is a legitimate concern. And I think that if you get enough big plays and Ty Simpson gets popping like he did against Vanderbilt, game's over, man. And I'm all in on Simpson. I think that's going to be the biggest thing here.
I am too. And I really don't know if I can trust the rushing attack completely yet with Missouri. And for me, when it came down to it, listen, Mizzou, you got to prove it to me. You legitimately have to prove that you can do it. And listen, Alabama's not been good on the road with Kalen DeBoer, so there's a very good chance they could do it, and we'll see here. But I do trust Ty Simpson as well. Joe, this is the one that had you flabbergasted that I win here. Yeah. Texas -1.5 on FanDuel over Oklahoma. I'm going with the Longhorns. You're going with the Sooners.
Dude, that pass rush is going to cook on that. That Texas offensive line stinks. It's so bad. It's one of the worst in the country. I have no reason.
Oklahoma's is good.
It's not. It actually might be better than Texas is. And I think that defense for Oklahoma has been far more productive. Dude, I really think that Oklahoma is going to win this thing by 7 or more points. It's going to be a shocking game that our perception is going to change on Oklahoma.
I think our perception is going to change on Texas. I think they bounce back this week.
Right.
I think that there's a reason that FanDuel's got them as a favorite here. I don't think that Michael Hawkins if he goes and it's not Mateer, I think he's in for a rude awakening. I think this Texas defense rolls. I think that they can't run the ball.
That's fair.
Whether it's John Mateer or not, they can't run the ball.
Neither team can run the ball, so we'll see which one breaks through.
That is very true. We'll see y'all on Sunday after a full slate of games on Saturday. Until then, we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a great night. Peace.